Thanks again for joining us. I hope everybody is safe, and I hope your family and yourself are well, and you're not too quarantined and going crazy. So welcome to our first virtual marketing workshop. I'm sure you saw the agenda already. We're going to do best practices for filming yourself with smartphones and do-it-yourself tips from Carter. And then accessibility and social media, including how to create video captions, and Megan and Matt will walk you through that. So we're going to start with Carter here. I'm going to navigate to the site for him. Oops.
Okay, so thank you everyone for being on this call today. Any questions, you can always just cut me off, ask me for any clarity. As far as best practices, I kind of laid out little basic guidelines on our site, basically starting for where your light source would be. A lot of times people will film themselves with their smartphones with a light and light source behind them. And that can be problematic because it'll put you in a shadow silhouette, almost like you're in witness protection kind of look, which is, I know you don't want that. So for example, my setup here, I'm actually facing towards the window right now. It's front facing. I mentioned taking advantage of the natural light of the window. You could have it at an angle. You could have it fully frontal light, but it's kind of a more flattering light. And also with the angle of your camera, keeping that almost at eye line, because if you film yourself below your eye line, that kind of shows reverence and power. You might want to be going for that. But if you film yourself above your eye line, it's almost like you're diminutive. You're kind of looking down at that person. So it kind of takes your power away. A nice median is to kind of have your camera at your eye line. I think that's the first part for natural light, Eli. I think you can move forward.
Now I have the background and camera position and framing.
Hey, Eli.
Okay.
Eli, right now we're seeing the PowerPoint slide. If you want to pull up your...
Oh, that's weird. Okay.
Share your browser.
That's what I thought I was doing.
You just have to switch over with the share screen, Eli. So if you click on share screen again, it should pop up your other options.
Okay, here. That's interesting. Sorry about that, everybody.
No worries.
You're good.
Okay, now you can see it.
Hey, that's great.
Okay.
So the background's pretty important. Let's see, I lost the little top part of that. Eli, do you mind scrolling up a little bit? The background, there you go. Thank you. So try to avoid anything that's moving in the background, distracting to the eye, distracting to your viewers, of course. Avoid windows in the background, kind of like I mentioned, because you'll overexpose the background, but you'll still be in a dark shadow silhouette. You don't really want that. You want to face towards your light source. Visual depth, if you look at the depth of the room, it kind of adds visual interest. And once again, camera position. This kind of walks you through as far as where to set your camera. So once again, having the camera at eye line is a nice neutral place to have it. Once again, positioning yourself in front of the flattering light from a natural window source. Framing is important. So on my phone, I have thirds. You see kind of the grid pattern that's on the two example shots. I will actually frame myself up using that grid. If you don't have it, you can just kind of remember that usually one's eye line is at about the 3/4 mark. So you almost split the frame in half, go up about 3/4 of that frame. That's usually where your eye will sit. Your eye line will sit, which gives you a little less limited headroom. It's a little more flattering to look at that. So I think two of those examples kind of hit that point home. Some cameras have issues resolving fine patterns. So you'll have an effect called a moire pattern, which is this ugly look. It's like it doesn't look flattering. So a lot of times that's why people say avoid thin black stripes and micro texture clothing. Solid clothing is usually very flattering when it comes to video. And jewelry also. You have noise you're contending with. If you're moving around with jewelry, jewelry can be reflective also, which can be a distraction. Eyeglasses, I'm the offender right now because you're seeing the glare in my glasses. So basically I would adjust the camera to limit the amount of glare that I'm getting in my glasses. And that's pretty much it.
Okay, I'm going to hand this over to Megan. Let's see.
Well, wait, before we change topics, I'm wondering if we want to field questions for Carter about filming.
Good call. Does anybody have any questions?
You can feel free to unmute yourself and ask, or you can type it in the chat box.
I have a question, Megan. Hi, everyone. I'm Erin, Barry Anderson in campus ministry. And we've been doing a lot of filming for, like filming of our homilies and just little, we call it high from home for our students. And especially with our homilies or our sermons, we're needing to read while while we're being filmed. Now, my little high from home was an epic, ridiculous mess because I was like, looking down, and of course I haven't printed anything, so I'm like trying to scroll and look at the camera and actually keep my eyes up and all of that. So I'm wondering if you have any tips or tricks for how to actually read something while filming yourself, but still maintaining as much attention to the camera as possible.
A lot of times your eye line is really important. So I'll know where the camera is on my smartphone or where the lens actually is. And I will have the text, how do I say, like adjacent to the camera, usually not below because my eyes will drift down, which will look a little awkward. But if I'm looking and have my eye line pretty neutral, I can have that document right next to the lens where I am slightly looking off at the document, but it's not one of these things where I'm looking down or looking up. And I can keep my eye line somewhat neutral, but you're still going to be looking off a little bit. Teleprompter obviously would be the best thing. There are some really good teleprompter additions that you could use with your smartphone. I'm trying to think of a good name I could forward you. I'll have to dig a little bit though.
Carter, there are two other questions. Jay has a question about recommendations for ensuring the best possible audio quality when filming with an iPhone. And then Alicia asks if there's a simple idiot-proof video editing software for Mac, ideally free.
Microphone, the biggest thing is basically proximity. So you can tell I'm pretty close to the phone here. So you're hopefully getting a good, clear signal. There are microphones you can connect to your smartphone that will get closer to you, especially if you're further back. I could find some recommendations for that. But one of the major things I'd say is basically proximity. And there was a second question I kind of blanked. What was the second question, Eli?
It was if there was a simple idiot-proof video editing software for Mac that's free, but Alicia was saying she doesn't really like iMovie, so if there was something else.
There is free software through DaVinci Resolve, which is really robust video editing software. It takes a little bit of a learning curve, but it is free. It's absolutely free. You could cut with something like that. That's free. DaVinci Resolve is the first thing I'm thinking about. And that's going to be more of a professional app that is absolutely free. But once again, it's going to take a little bit of a learning curve to kind of pick up. If you are familiar with Adobe Premiere, then it's kind of a natural progression to something like, I shouldn't say progression, but it'd be a natural transition to something like DaVinci Resolve. DaVinci Resolve is the name.
Thanks, Carter.
Sure. And I know Matt might have other ideas of free software that's out there for cutting and editing.
I was just going to add to DaVinci Resolve because I've tried using that, and it does take a learning curve. I agree. But other than that, I personally, if I need to edit something really fast on my phone, I'll use the iMovie app for the phone or the computer, or I'll use Premiere Rush. But I don't know if you can, I know you can do a 30-day free trial for that, but that's typically what I'll use on my phone. I also think I think your actual iPhones have very typical where you can cut things and all that, but anything more than that, I just typically put it on iMovie or Premiere Rush.
Mm-hmm. And DaVinci Resolve is made by a company named Black Magic. And once again, you can visit their site and download it for free on your computer. It's really good software.
Thanks. Does anybody else have any questions? Well, okay, if anybody has questions later, feel free to chat. And then Megan, I'll hand it over to you.
Of course, my Zoom buttons are right in the way. Sorry about that. All right, so one of the other things that's happening with our new normal and lots more videos, we're constantly encountering issues of accessibility, both on our website and in social media. And so Matt and I wanted to talk about accessibility in social media. A lot of our content editors, if you work in Terminal 4, you've heard me talk about website accessibility, but accessibility also applies to your social media posts, including particularly your video content. So we wanted to show you a little bit, some tips and tricks for making your social media more accessible and run through really easy ways to create video captions. So really quick, I want to talk a little bit about what is accessibility. So you're really wanting to ensure that all users, including and especially users with disabilities, can access and navigate your content, whether that's on your website, your Seattle U website, or on your social media accounts. And so you're thinking about users who are using screen readers, braille devices, and other assistive technologies. You're thinking about users who need visual enhancements, and being able to blow up your screen and still be able to read everything really well. You're also thinking about folks who maybe can't use a mouse, so needing to use keyboard-only navigation or voice-controlled navigation. So some kinds of disabilities that we're thinking about that impact web use and social media use, right? So you've got your visual disabilities like blindness or low vision, color blindness, contrast sensitivity. You've got auditory disabilities like deafness or being hard of hearing. You have motor disabilities, like I said, inability to use a mouse, slow response time, limited fine motor control, things like that. And then we're also thinking about cognitive disabilities as well. So learning disabilities, distractibility, being unable to focus and remember large amounts of information. And that's one thing that social media has over like your website, right? Because everything is very small chunks. So why is accessibility important? For Seattle University, as a mission-driven institution that's focused on social justice, we cannot and should not be excluding users with disabilities from being able to access our content, whether that's our website, whether that's our social media. It's part of our mission. It's part of our institutional commitment to diversity and inclusion. But also it's a good business practice, right? If we are not making our website and our social media content accessible for all users, we're not serving our stakeholders as well. We're not serving our students, our faculty, our staff, our prospective students, their families, our donors, right? And particularly in a time of coronavirus where there's so much competition for students and ensuring that they are successful in their educational careers, right? Everything that we can do to make our website and make our social media as accessible as possible is really beneficial. People with disabilities, I've read statistics between like 1 in 5 people or 1 in 4 people have disabilities. So if we're excluding those folks from our website content, from our social media content, we're losing out on a lot of prospective students. We're losing out on a lot of, prospective donors, or we're not serving our current students the way that we need to be if we are not ensuring that our website content and our social media content is as accessible as possible. But not only does website accessibility benefit people with disabilities, it benefits all users, right? So I can hear just fine, but when a video is captioned, I'm not always listening to videos. I'll watch the captions all the time, right? So you're not just benefiting users with disabilities, you're benefiting all people as well. Now, the carrot, right? It's the right thing to do. The stick is Seattle University is required by law to make our website meet minimum website accessibility standards. There is kind of a gray area in terms of, does our social media content constitute our website, and do the legal requirements apply to social media? But if we are posting those things to our website, if we're embedding YouTube videos, if we're posting our Facebook feeds to our Seattle University website, we want to do everything in our power to make sure that our website is accessible and our social media is as accessible as possible. So now Matt and I are going to run through some best practices for accessible social media, including alt descriptions for images or alt text, some best practices for links, best practices for hashtags, some thoughts on color and contrast, and then we'll get to the meat, which is the captions for video and transcripts for audio. So Matt, also feel free to jump in whenever you would like. So your alt descriptions for your images. You want to make sure that every image or graphic that you're sharing has a short alt description or an alt text. And essentially that is going to be read to users by screen readers, and you want that to convey the meaning of the image to someone who can't see it or see it well. And you do want to try and avoid really text-heavy images if at all possible.
Yeah, I can chime into this, Megan. So there's different way on each platform. There's kind of a different way to do these descriptions. On Twitter, you're gonna, like shown in the picture here, there's just a little tab that says add description when you put the picture up, and then you have the opportunity to type in exactly what you're seeing in the picture. And just on a side note, if you ever have trouble kind of describing words in the photo, I know if you pull it off Photo Shelter, our university photographer Yosef does a really good job of describing each image and what's going on in each image in the caption or in the description on Photo Shelter. So you can always pull language from there. So that's how you do it on Twitter. It's pretty simple there, and it takes honestly like 5 extra seconds while posting. And then here, Megan, if you could just go to the next one. Okay, and then on Facebook, kind of a similar way, you add your image, and then there's a little tab that says edit photo there. It looks like the pen tool. You click on that, and then there's a little magnifying glass. You click alt text, and then from there you just kind of describe the image just like you did in Twitter. This one I just said view from Bannon building roof, from just some rooftop images we have around campus. And then this one's for LinkedIn. Same way, you go right when you upload an image, it shows add alt text in the top right corner. From there, that black box is going to pop up, and you're going to text exactly what you see in the photo here. And then I think I have Instagram next. Instagram, I think, is the more time-consuming one. You got to click on it, and then you kind of have to look for it. It says advanced settings at the bottom left corner of that first page. And then from there, when you click on advanced setting, you go to write alt text. And then you have the opportunity to type in there whatever you decide to put the description in as.
So the next thing is your link text. Now, since link text is read out loud by screen readers and other assistive devices, you want to, the best practice for your website is not actually to put a URL on the page, right? You want to try, but that's different for social media, right? So for social media, you do end up with links directly in your posts. And since that's read out loud, you can use a URL shortener to decrease the number of characters in a link. And Matt has got a link here to Bitly. Do you want to say anything about Bitly?
Yeah, I mean, so I'll use Bitly if I'm pulling something from a website and the link is super, super long. Other than that, I know I'm going to answer Karen's question as well, since it's kind of on, I can chime into this topic as well. But some different third-party accounts that you can use to post and schedule stuff also have sections for that. So we use Sprout Social, for example, and when I post, it gives me an option to shorten captions or shorten website URLs. And I use that almost every single time, because especially on Twitter, it also minimizes your character count, which helps a lot. So that's all I really have to add to Bitly.
Gotcha. And I can't see the chat box right now. So if Matt or if someone else wants to shout out any of the other questions that are happening.
Looks like Diana had a question, I think.
Yeah, Diane wanted to know how much it would be to create an enterprise vanity shortener. I do not know the answer to that.
And we can always do some investigating and get back to you about that, Diane. All right, in addition to link text, one of the other things we want to tell you about is hashtags. Matt.
Yeah, so basically hashtags will generate regardless as if you capitalize each word or not on the feed. So if you type in stand together, stay apart in all lowercase, it will still pop up if you type it in an uppercase. But when you capitalize each letter of the first word, it's just way easier to read and break apart those hashtags. So I think that's the most important part of this, rather than, especially if you have a long hashtag, it can get really jumbled up with all lowercase letters. So this is just a way to have people have an easier time to read and break apart those hashtags.
It also makes it easier for screen readers to read hashtags too. Again, I can see that there's chats popping up, but I can't read it from here. Can someone?
Yeah, Karen is asking. Let me pull it up real quick. She was asking. Populate that. Any idea how to do alternative captions in Hootsuite to schedule with Instagram? So a lot of third-party companies that you use to schedule stuff is still kind of in the process of getting alternative captions as an option when you're posting. So for example, when we have Sprout Social, we are able to do alternative captions on Twitter, and that's it. Any other alternative caption, I have to then schedule it normally, and then I have to go in and edit the post and do it that way. And that's just anything with third-party stuff. It really depends on which one you're using. But a lot of the stuff is not, it's not ahead enough with the alt captions and a lot of accessibility stuff on the third-party platforms. And I know we had Hootsuite for a little bit. I can't remember if you can do alternative captions on other platforms, but Instagram is definitely the trickier one, where I would just suggest either posting directly from Instagram in that case, or going in and editing and adding a alternative caption after.
Then I wanted to briefly talk about color and contrast. So if you want to think about this in terms of if you're creating your own graphics to share on social media or post to your website, or if you are adding, so one of the things we'll talk about is adding captions or adding text to your video, right? So if you're adding background color and text color, you really want to be sensitive about your color selection for the text color and the background color. So things like, you don't want to use red and green together for people who have red-green color blindness. And you want to be really careful about contrast sensitivity. So there is actually a legal guideline about the contrast ratio between the text color and the background color. So for normal size text, the contrast ratio is supposed to be 4.5 to 1. For large size text, the contrast ratio is 3 to 1. So what does that mean? you just need to be able to easily see the text color from the background color. Now, I've got a couple of resources here. On the Marcom website, we have, on the brand colors page, we have a section that's recommendations for color combinations that meet accessibility guidelines for color contrast. So it will tell you what are the hex codes for those colors and what background and text color meets those meets those accessibility requirements for color contrast. Or you can use a contrast checker, and I've got one linked here. We'll share the slides later. But that contrast checker, you can just type in the hex code for the text color, type in the hex code for the background color, and it will tell you right away, does this meet accessibility standards? So you want to just make sure that you're really careful about color and contrast when you're creating graphics or when you're adding text to like videos and things like that. Now, here's, do we have any questions about anything so far before we dive into video captions?
Yeah, there's one question about suggestions on managing multiple social media accounts on scheduling content for more than one user. I mean, we used Hootsuite, and that was free for a while, but we needed something more robust. Matt, you could probably talk about that.
Yeah, we use Sprout Social right now, and I think we have up to 10 different accounts that we can be on right now. But I personally like Sprout Social better. I'd say depending on how many accounts you're trying to manage, I'd say either Hootsuite or Sprout Social would get the job done in terms of scheduling, because even Hootsuite, this free account, you can schedule, I think, up to might be around 20 posts a month. Does that help at all?
That question was from Angela.
Angela?
Does that help, Angela? And Hootsuite is free if you're using it on a more limited way. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, everyone.
Okay,
Yeah.
no problem.
All right, so now we can go ahead and dive into options for creating video captions. So all of your videos on YouTube or on Vimeo, wherever you host your video content, you need to have captions on those videos. And so a couple of different options you have for creating video captions. Your first option would be to review and update auto-generated captions. So auto-generated captions themselves, they do not meet legal requirements because it's just, there's so many mistakes in them, right? There's no punctuation, proper nouns are usually pretty wild. So you have to make sure that you are reviewing and correcting auto-generated captions in order to meet legal guidelines. So you can also create captions yourself. So one of the easiest ways that I've found to do that is with YouTube's transcribe and auto-sync function. I'm actually going to demonstrate that for you in just a second. Another option you have is to hire a third party. So Marcom works with rev.com. It costs $1.25 per video minute. So if you have a 30-minute video, it's, 40 some dollars. So when you are creating videos, when you have speakers and things like that, if you do not have, especially the longer your video is, you want to make sure that you're thinking about captioning in your budget process, right? So if you do not have the ability or the time to do the captions yourself or correct the auto-generated captions, you're going to want to make sure that you hire a third-party service. And if you have a video created by Marcom, we always work this into the budgeting conversation every time. So those are a couple of, so 3 different options. And so we'll run through these. So platforms that can generate an SRT file. An SRT file is one of the types of caption files, just one option that you have. So Facebook can create an SRT file that can do auto-generated captions that you can correct. YouTube does as well, and Canvas Studio. And so the SRT files that are generated by these platforms, you can actually download the caption file, the SRT file, and upload them onto other platforms like Vimeo, like Twitter, like LinkedIn, things like that. So I've got a few examples, and I'm going to show you this right now. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you Canvas Studio. So everyone at Seattle U has a Canvas account, and everyone can use Canvas Studio. So here I'm logged into Canvas, and I go over here to the Studio button. And I've already uploaded Matt's video to my Canvas, to my Studio site. But all you would need to do to add a video is go up here to this add button, and you can add either a video file directly from your computer, or you can add in from YouTube. So I'll go in here and look at the video, and then I go over here to the captions. Now, I haven't requested the captions yet, so I'm gonna go request captions. I'm gonna say we're speaking English, and I'm gonna request our captions. And Canvas Studio takes very little time in order, so already it's popped up and it says review and publish. So I'll go ahead and review and publish. So now this 1 minute 52-second video that Matt put together, and we're actually going to show you in just a second, has got auto-generated captions. So then you can turn on the video, go through, listen to it, make sure that, and actually it's looking pretty good, right? So here, for example, let's look.
Hi everyone, I'm going to show you how to import an SRT file into a Premiere project to where you can get closed cap.
So whenever you stop to edit it, it'll stop the video.
Captions baked into your videos specifically for Instagram and Twitter. So first off, you're going to take the video you're working with. In this example, I'm going to be using Earth Day, and you're going to drag that file onto your timeline. And then from there, you're going to want to identify when the speaking will start. So if you go here, you can look at the sound waves. It's going to start about right here. So then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take your SRT file and you're going to drag it right to the starting point. And so as you can see, those are all matched up, and they're going to appear pretty small, the SRT here and the words, the captioning. So you're going to want to click on it, controls, and you're going to want to play with both the scale tool and the positioning tool. So for positioning, you're going to want to make these words way bigger. So you're going to want to bump the y-axis. You're going to
So you can see the Canvas Studio captions are actually
a little bit higher,
pretty accurate.
And then I want to take the scaling and make it a little bit bigger. And I'll give you an example of that. Here, and then a little bit bigger. And that looks about perfect for me for Instagram caption. You don't want them easy enough to be accessible. So, and then you're going to play it back and make sure it all looks good. Thank you so much and for joining us here on Earth. So then what you're going to want to do is you're going to go export the video like you're normally going to do. You're going to want to click here, highlight your whole timeline, go to File, Export, Media, and then it's going to load, and then you're going to want to rename however you want here, your output name and where you're going to want to save it. Then you're going to hit Q, and then it's going to go to your media encoder. So it's going to render your video for you and export it.
So really quickly, you can see just how easy it is to run through, caption your video and correct it and then publish it. So now I've got an SRT file that I can download out of Canvas Studio, and I'll save it to my desktop. And then you can upload that to any of your channels that you're using like YouTube. So I'm also going to show you some YouTube here. So I've also got Matt's video on how to bake in your captions uploaded to the YouTube. And
hey, Megan, real quick before you go to YouTube, Amber has a good question about Canvas uploads. Okay. She said her account has not allowed her to upload videos, and she just assumed it was from her previous uploads. Is there a limit?
It was my understanding that everyone could upload videos to Studio. So that's maybe actually a good question for CDLI. I wonder if maybe there's some user permissions or something that needs to happen in Canvas Studio. I can always reach out and ask about that. Are there other questions before we move on?
Jay said that that it's found auto captions in Zoom to be really accurate, cloud recording only, which I did not cloud record on this. So that'll be fun.
We'll have a really good time captioning the video of this workshop.
Yeah.
So, all right, we'll dive back into YouTube here. So when you're looking at your channel, your list of videos, you can edit your video, and then you can go here to the subtitles, and you'll go add language. I've already started working on one, so that's why there's one that appears here. So you'd add language, you tell it what language they're speaking, and then you can edit the subtitles. So when you do that, it's like here, upload a file, transcribe and auto sync, or create new subtitles. So I could go here and upload the file, the SRT file that I downloaded from Canvas Studio, and it would add the captions right here into YouTube. Or you can actually transcribe the video yourself. And so I personally prefer this option. But I also have a lot of personal experience transcribing stuff. Not everyone does. But YouTube has a really great transcribe and auto sync function. And so I already started transcribing this because I didn't want you to have to sit here and watch me transcribe Matt's video again. But so you can see as the video plays, you can just start typing what you hear. And then, so I'll just start from here.
And it's going to load, and then you're going to want to rename however you want your output name and where you're going to want to save it.
And where you're going to want.
And you're going to hit Q.
Want to hit Q.
And then it's going to go to your media.
And then it's going.
Media encoder.
Your media encoder.
So it's going to render your.
To render.
Video for you.
Video for you. And export it. So if you're like me, if you're a crazy person like me and you like to transcribe your own videos, YouTube makes it super easy. So I've transcribed the video, and then the cool thing about the transcribe and auto sync is that it will automatically take the transcription that you've given it and it will line it up with with the time of the video. So I'll tell it set time. And it takes a little bit of time for it to auto sync your transcription with the video. So, you come back in a few more minutes and see it says subtitles are being timed, check back soon. So there are lots of different versions, and once it actually gets back, you can adjust the timing too. So if the auto sync functionality doesn't quite line up the way that you want it to, you can actually click and drag and move things around and make it line up a little bit better. But so you can see once you have that transcription file, you can download the SRT file and you can upload it to like Twitter or Instagram or other platforms. And so I'm actually going to take that file that I uploaded or that I downloaded from Canvas Studio, and I'm going to find it here on my desktop, and I'm going to see here. I can do that a little bit later and make sure that there's captions on this video. But yeah, so hopefully you can see from this that it's actually pretty easy to create your own captions. So I just wanted to demonstrate how that works for you, because it really is super duper easy to add your own captions to your video. Now, the tricky one here is Instagram. So for video content that you post to Instagram, your captions actually need to be baked into the video file itself. And so if you take your SRT file that you've created somewhere else and import it into video editing software like Adobe Premiere, you can bake the captions in to your video file itself. And so the video that you just listened to while I captioned, this is the video that Matt created to show you how you can bake in your captions. And I'll be posting all of that for you so you can see exactly in Premiere how you drag your SRT file into your timeline and line it up with the video, and how you can change the size of the captions. It'll show up right there on your video, and that bakes it into your video file itself, and then you upload that video file to Instagram. So do we have questions?
I have a question. Hi, everyone. I'm Anna, Campus Ministry. Just the piece around baking in using Premiere. So Canvas does not give you an option to download the like baked in file, because for some reason I thought I saw that earlier and got excited because it's easier than Premiere.
So Canvas Studio, you can download the SRT file. It's a separate file from the video file itself. But in Premiere, you can take that SRT file and add it. And so I think we've got that. Can someone correct me if I'm wrong? Everyone can get a copy of Adobe Premiere with the one of the promotions that we're running or that we've got for COVID, or can someone correct me?
I'm pretty sure you can get it.
Yeah, that's what I've heard as well. And to answer your question further, Alicia, because I know you had the same question in the chat here. The one thing that is super difficult about Instagram specifically is the fact you have to bake them in. And I'm still on the search for a good free platform to actually bake them in. I know iMovie, you can open up iMovie, but you can't, it's very frustrating. You can't actually drag and drop an SRT file into iMovie, but you can add subtitles. So the only other option I could think of is once you have that SRT file, you can copy and paste the time code into your subtitle area in iMovie, but you can't directly drag and drop an SRT file. It's weird because there are so many apps for captioning Instagram stories for free on the App Store, but there's nothing really for actual posts. So that's something I'm still looking into as well.
We have a couple more questions down here. Carol wants to know when the Adobe Creative Cloud free access expires. I have no idea. I think that'll be for a while. And then we have, do we need to somehow provide alt text imagery descriptions for images used in a video in addition to the transcript of spoken word? If so, how do we do that?
I'm so sorry. I've got a yard work happening with leaf blower right outside my window. So this is fantastic timing. In terms of like best practice, that's something that you can do. And I've seen videos about how you can do that, Barry. So I'm not exactly sure how much of that is a legal requirement and how much of that is just best practice. So I can do some more investigating and find out and see if I can dig up some more resources to answer your question. If you would like, I can dig into that for you.
Megan, here's a question for you. Since we weren't able to transcribe this video to start with through the cloud, this is going to be an hour-long video. How would you recommend that we transcribe this video?
So what we could do is send the video file to rev.com and pay $1.25 a video minute to transcribe the video. Or I could take the time to upload it to Canvas Studio and edit the captions and upload it to YouTube or wherever we post this video for this workshop. It really depends on what the budget manager says about the budget.
Especially right now.
Rachel, do we have $1.25 so we can check?
I think she's gone now.
Gotcha.
Oh, Mike just sent the link for the Creative Cloud temporary license. Thank you, Mike.
So do you all have any other questions for us? We're happy to talk about video.
There's one more question here. My uploading power is so slow from home. How do I manage all this different uploading? That's from Teresa, I think.
You know, Teresa, that's a really good question. My Wi-Fi has also been excruciatingly slow from home. So, you know, that's a really good question. I'm gonna have to figure out some thoughts and get back to you about that one. And does anybody have some ideas or some suggestions about that? Sometimes if it might be easier to plug in, right? So if Wi-Fi is particularly slow, you could plug in and do wired uploading. But yeah, so rendering and uploading video does take time and you know, power in terms of your network and your connection. So
I was gonna say, hi.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, I do that last thing before I get off. Whatever I'm rendering, whatever I'm getting ready to upload, I just start it, make sure that my machine isn't going to turn off, and then just do it like the last thing of the day. So I've had to move around some of my timeline for things, but I've always done that just because rendering can take, on the best of situations, an hour can take 4 hours of rendering. So yeah, I just start it and leave it and just let it take as long as it takes. Also, often I'll wait until like right before I go to bed to start a rendering, just because that's when the bandwidth slows down in Seattle, and that seems to help.
good
You know, one thing I was going to mention also, your codec that you use is going to be pretty important. So you have a format or a codec called H.264, and that's kind of basically a web protocol codec for video. So it still retains a lot of the good quality of the video, but it makes the files smaller. Think more of like a WAV music file and then you having an MP3 file. You're not going to lose as much quality that's you can perceive, but that's a good way to go as far as making your video files as small as you can.
So how do you use that format?
So the wonderful thing about a lot of the editing software, when you're exporting, like for example with Premiere, and you go to the encoder, you're going to have different options that give you, there's one option that is HDTV 1080p. That's just basically 1920 by 1080, but that will send out a compressed file for web. For example, if Matt was going to do a video that's web-based, there's a template or a preset for things that for web delivery and social media delivery that will be a smaller file.
Okay.
Yeah, just to chime in, I upload, when I export and render my videos for social, I usually do 1080 HD. And a lot of times I think you can even do 1080 HD like medium quality. which usually will speed up the process quite a bit. Because if I ever try to do, even on my connection and computer, if I ever try to do anything more than that, I could be waiting for a really long time.
Yeah, I started an upload yesterday at 5, and it's like 40%. But
I
it's
know the
like an
feeling.
8-minute video, so.
Yeah, I know the feeling. I know the feeling.
Okay,
Yeah, I think,
I'll look.
yeah.
Well, now I need to recaption it and re-upload it, I guess. So there's more work to do.
Oh, gotcha.
I think
Well,
when you put that new codec in, that's going to help you. Like if you can stop what you're doing, do what you're going to change, and then put the codec in that Carter suggested, that's going to change that time quite a bit.
Okay.
It will, because you're having more just smaller size files. And just know, if you've already uploaded something, a lot of your captioning can be directly replaced if you're dealing with an SRT file or a VTT file, for example. You can just re-upload and replace the existing SRT file or VTT file.
Oh, so the upload goes so much faster? Is that it?
Well, it's just if there's some changes or something that was incorrect by the original captioning file, you can just upload and replace the captioning file itself.
Ah, maybe I'll have to talk to you and ask questions when I get to that point.
I'm open to it. Let me know anytime.
Okay, there's a question from
had a
Yolanda.
question. Yeah, I saw that.
You want to take that, Carter?
Yeah. So editing softwares, they're quite similar as far as their layout. As far as a learning curve, yes, there's a little bit of a learning curve, but there are great tutorials just on YouTube that kind of walk you through the basic UI of Premiere. You're going to find a lot of similarities between DaVinci Resolve, for example, and Adobe Premiere. So yes, it's a little bit of a learning curve. That's what I'm here for, though. If any questions or guidance on that, you can always call and I can kind of walk you through the functionality. I'd be glad to do it. But yes, there is a little bit of a learning curve, but it's totally worth it.
So just while we're on the topic of resources for you while you are on this journey to create your own videos and to caption your own videos and to make your social media accessible, we've got best practices for filming yourself with a smartphone on the Marcom website. Again, we're going to send out this slide deck for you, so you'll have all of these. We also have the Marcom video page. We have all of our video stock footage, including bumpers and overlays, so you can brand your videos with the Seattle U logo. Carter has provided some pretty incredible video stock footage that you're welcome to use for your own videos. And then we've got guidelines and best practices for video captioning. And then we also have the Marcom social media guidelines and the web team's website accessibility guidelines. In addition to all of these resources, we are happy to answer questions and help. Carter, Matt, Eli, and myself, we're absolutely happy to answer questions and help, field some, troubleshooting and things like that. So if there are other questions, we're absolutely happy to take other questions. But yeah, in terms of learning different softwares, I would also heartily endorse lynda.com or LinkedIn Learning. You can pretty much learn how to use just about any software on the planet with LinkedIn Learning or lynda.com. So, and they usually have different sorts of levels in terms of, how detailed you want to get on this particular software. So yeah, definitely want to echo lynda.com or LinkedIn Learning for tutorials for learning Premiere or other softwares.
Could I add something, Megan, if this is cool?
Yeah.
One of the driving factors for us using Premiere is the synergy with After Effects, because After Effects is a whole other program for motion graphics and things of that nature. It's kind of an industry standard. So that kind of informs my decision for being in the Adobe ecosystem, using Premiere, but also leveraging the motion graphics of After Effects as well. That's a whole nother lesson.
I used Premiere Rush, just learned how to use it, and I figured it out in, I don't know, an hour or something, and some fuss. Rush is kind of a fun, it's like dumbed down. There's not so many tiny little things as there are in Premiere Pro.
Right.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I feel like on top of lynda.com and LinkedIn Learning, for Premiere, I feel like YouTube, I put this in the chat, but YouTube has so many videos that are really short and easy to follow along, and you can literally type in the search exactly what you want to do. And that's usually if I don't know something and if I'm not able to run to Carter's desk, or he's too busy, I'll use YouTube, and that usually helps a lot.
YouTube University, man.
Yeah, and I agree with you too. Premiere Rush is way, way less complicated than Premiere Pro, especially if you want to get something out there quick.
We have another question here. Someone asked about borrowing audio and video recording technology from SU, or do you suggest phone or computer recording? Right now, there is, in the media center, you can check out equipment. Students come first.
The media production center in the library.
Yep. But students come first for that. But then right now, I don't think anything's open to do that.
Yeah, I think the MPC is closed for spring quarter. So that's why, but your iPhone or whatever smartphone you've got, the video quality is actually pretty phenomenal, right, Carter?
Yeah, really capable. I was about to say the same thing.
So your iPhone or your smartphone video is it's a pretty good option if you're at home and you need to create a video and you can't access like more professional equipment like you can check out from the MPC. I'm hoping that at some point in time we'll get back to normal and you'll be able to do that again. Just another plug, the Media Production Center is incredible. So if you have not had any experience with that resource on our campus, it's one of our best kept secrets, I think.
They have a great equipment.
Yeah, and any Seattle U affiliate can request and check out equipment. So we've just got a couple of minutes here. If there are any last questions, we're happy to take any last questions or comments.
And also, I don't have everybody's email addresses. We sent this out in the campus announcements, so we will have the video and the PowerPoint on our website, Marcom, and then maybe we can do a campus announcement and send that in there at some point.
You got it. Thank you all so much for coming. Please reach out to us if you have any questions.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Stay sane and safe.
Thank you for joining us.